Yeah.
Okay, preverbs can have all kinds of meanings, and if you look in the dictionary for preverbs, you'll see that they mean many things. And they can express subtleties of meaning too. So there are three preverbs, geni, acqui, and machi, that all translate in English as stop, to stop doing something. So that if you, the word, like if we just put genusa, well, we'll use some other examples. So geniutime, we'll do that for, geniutime means someone stopped smoking. Acquiutime, this is the word, sometimes it's spelled like this, tame, but when a preverb comes in front of it, you can hear the W that used to be pronounced all the time. Matutime. Okay, so they all mean that someone stops smoking. But geniutime, here's the sentence, Nemia wechkuyali bakliazo and geniutama. When he saw the priest coming, he stopped smoking. And so that tells you that this geni, this stopping, is for the moment. The priest came along and he didn't want to be seen smoking in front of the priest. That's changed since this sentence was written. And so he stopped. Okay? Acquiutime is more like to quit smoking. Like permanently. Like you won't smoke anymore. Acquiutime. And matutime means more like finishing, coming to an end, slowing down, finishing the cigarette. So we'd have a sentence, Nitematjutamad achjuinat luke. When he finished smoking, he went back to work. So that's means that when you're speaking Passamaquoddy, when you're learning the language, you kind of have to be aware that there are different ways with different meanings. And all of these, if you think about them, they tell you something about time. Stopping for a moment, stopping permanently, or coming to a stop. So these are just different subtleties of the preverbs. And the more words you hear with acqui is something that you'll hear people say all by itself. It's one of the few preverbs that can be used just by itself as a sentence. Acqui means stop it. Whatever you're doing, stop it. Stop it now. Acqui tomatoing. Stop bothering me. Okay, you're really telling somebody to stop and not do it anymore. So that's why it's like, quit bothering me, we would say in English. Quit that, quit doing that, stop doing that. Doesn't mean finish doing that, and it doesn't mean pause doing that. It means stop it permanently. Or when you see a stop sign, what people would write on the stop sign is jeunesse, stop going. But it's just stop here, and then you're going to go on again. So that uses jinne. And then there's a word with machi that's very common is machine. Machine, which means he or she dies and stops, and this part means something about suffering or being ill. And so the person comes to the end of their life, they die. So these are subtle things that Passamaquoddy does about time. So, some years ago when we were working on the Passion play, translating the story of the Passion into Passamaquoddy, the title of that play in Passamaquoddy was Jesus, Martinez. So, Jesus is Jesus, probably from the French word Jésus, and Martinez, and then wagon is a very common final root in Passamaquoddy that makes a verb into a noun. So Martinez, he or she dies. Martinez wagon is death. So it literally means Jesus' death. So we can take that ending and put it on many other verbs to make them into nouns. So we have Luca, he or she works, and Luca wagen, that's all one word here, is work, a job, or a task, something like that. So that makes Luca into a noun. Goluzu is a verb that means to speak. He or she speaks. So we can say Golusuwakan is a word, something that is spoken. What's another example? Lintu, we saw a part of that, a word like that before. He or she sings. Lintuwakan, a song. So many nouns in Passamaquoddy are created from verbs. And there are many other things that you can do to change the part of speech to make a noun into a verb or a verb into a noun. So there's Lukawagan, Lintawagan, Galusawagan, Nachinawagan, Ladawa is a verb. There are actually two verbs, ladawa, that both sound and are spelled the same. One means to climb, and the other means to speak a language. So ladawawagan comes from the speaking one. So to speak, something that you speak, is a language. So that's a language. If you want to talk about climbing, then that's formed a little bit differently. It's a shorter word. Ladu, you can see that it has the same kind of part there, but laduwagen would be a ladder. So it's a little different from that. Xinuke is a verb that means to be sick and or ill, and xinukewagen is an illness or sickness. So that's, you can do that with many, many verbs. Change them like that. And we can change nouns into verbs as well, the other way around, by doing something different. For instance, we have the noun ski dog. Ski dog is a man. So we could say ski dog wheel. This part, and it means he is a man. Or we could put woolly in front of it, which we saw before with woolly. Woolly skidabe wheel, he is a good man. Or we could say skidabe wesu. This L part really goes with the skidab has a vowel that goes with it, of eh. But skidabe wesu, he becomes a man. Or it could be, we'll just leave it like that. He becomes a man or turns into a man. It could even, there's a story about Bookchin's one of the old stories that was written down in the 1800s. And Bookchin's is this kind of evil woman, and she wants to punish people at the end of the story. So she says, "Ujitsu, where we on? We won't worry about the ends of this." Jitsu is a mosquito, and it's related to the root of just, that means to pierce something. So just webion, I will turn into a mosquito. And this is I, remember the prefix N tells you that it's I will become a mosquito. Apiduia. Apid is a woman. Apiduia. She becomes a woman. That's this same root here, but looks a little, has a different ending there. Apiduia. So that's another kind of thing you can play with in Passamaquoddy. We could take, just to go back to the man again, just because sometimes it's easier to see if you use the same word. We could make a transitive verb out of this by putting a different prefix on it. Uski dog, wala. which means somebody, she or he, turns him or her, could even be her, into a man. So here we've taken the word skidab. There's a prefix on this because he or she is doing it to someone. And this little part here, skidab awala, sorry. This part here means to do something to someone else. So we've taken the word man and we're now manning someone. We're turning that person, boy or a girl, into a man. Or another form of that by adding something else, which you've seen before. And these words, I'm not making them up. They come from old stories. Skidabel, al, and this is that S we saw at the beginning in Gusiguenzu, to do it to yourself. So skidaba walazu, he turns himself into a man.